Hello friends, welcome to my channel Creating Essence. I am Megan. Thank you so much for stopping by today. This week I have been sharing with you our curriculum plans for all of my kiddos for the 2019-2020 school year. We do year-round schooling. We started last year trying it out for the first time and it worked really well. So we will absolutely be continuing it this year. If you didn't see those videos, I will link them in the info box below. But I showed you what we'll be using for curriculum for my 8th grader, 6th grader, 4th grader, and 1st grader. What you saw missing was that we do a few subjects together as a family. Now, it may seem kind of weird. How is it possible to get an 8th grader a full education the same time and the same way you're teaching a 1st grader? Well, here's what we're using and here's how we're doing it. Last year, for the first time, we tried Story of the World. We started with volume 1 and we really loved it. So this year we will be continuing. I get the textbook on CD, give myself that little break. We have the activity book, which I was asked several times last year in my history video if this book is really necessary. And honestly, this book is the curriculum. I would not dream of doing Story of the World without this book. This is where the lessons are. This is just reading from a book. This is the actual teaching. It breaks down each chapter that you're going to hear broken down on the CD into cross-reference books, review questions, more discussion to build on it, book suggestions for things to build on the concept even more. There's additional history reading, corresponding historical literature reading. There's map work and geography included in this book. There are timelines included and ideas for creating more elaborate things, as well as art and hands-on projects in case your child is a kinetic learner. In addition to those two things, there are also a few supplemental pieces that we use for Story of the World. They are recommended right there on the listing with those things for more corresponding information and different ways to look at the same concepts. So last year, with the volume 1, we got the Usborne Book of World History, as well as the Kingfisher History Encyclopedia. Both of these will continue to be used this year. The curriculum gives the corresponding pages and where that information can be found in these two books. So it's really helpful to expand on the day's learning with those books. Those books are completely adequate for an elementary level education on these history topics. But because I'm also teaching middle schoolers, I get a few more supplementary things to expand on it, to teach my kids even more and give my bigger kids a deeper knowledge of all the things we're looking at. One of the books I got is the Usborne Encyclopedia of World History, and this includes internet links. I will link this in the info box below in case you wanted to take a look at it. The table of contents is incredibly thorough, so whatever I'm going to be reading about that week, I can really easily go in here and see if any of that is covered in this really substantial book. The internet links are important because you can go on to the specific website that is listed on the next page after the table of contents, and you can look up this specific book and the specific pages you're working on, and it gives you multiple internet resources like videos, diagrams, interactive pages, and more reputable sources and information that is on those pages. So it really helps build out more depth into the content. Another Usborne book we'll be using, it seems like it's a kind of a similar title, but there's a key difference. This is the internet linked encyclopedia of the ancient world. So this is going to deal with the ancients and the medieval times And again, it has a very thorough table of contents and those internet links that are going to help us build even more on the information. A couple of smaller books that are still great resources since we're looking at the medieval world and Middle Ages are The Medieval Messenger, which is a hardcover book from Usborne that looks like a newspaper, and it's laid out to be like that, but it goes through the timeline and the news of that time, as well as it's called Features. It's talking about the food and the different cultural things of that time, and it's laid out with original art as well as just fun stuff to give a different look and a different perspective at the same stuff. And then we also have the Usborne internet linked Medieval World, bit of a smaller book. It still has those internet links as well as that table of contents that makes it really easy for me to look at the curriculum book for Story of the World, see what we'll be covering that week, and write down page numbers that I want my bigger kids to go through. We also go to the library every other week, and while they are looking for books for pleasure, I have looked ahead to see what we'll be covering for the next 2 weeks in history and getting out books that in any way pertain to it. And while we won't be necessarily reading those at school time, my kids know they're going to be in the library bag and they are going to need to read it. They know that when it's time to go back to the library, I'm going to ask them if they have read those books, if they have that information, and they know they are required and responsible for it, and we will be discussing it. For science this year, we are going to be doing Exploring Creation, Zoology 2, Swimming Creatures of the Fifth Day from Apologia. Now, I had intended to start this last year, but we really dug in a lot deeper than was intended into the Flying Creatures of the Fifth Day that we were on last year, and it just ended up taking the whole year, which is totally fine with me. So, we have that textbook, we have the regular notebook that is activity sheets and things to go along with those lessons that my middle schoolers will be using, as well as the junior notebook that my first and fourth grader will be using. And just like in history, when we have those library days, I will be pulling out all of those books that apply to whatever it is that we're learning about over the next week or two in science for my big kids to read. They will be in the library bag, and they know they will be responsible for reading them and talking to me about them before the next time we head to the library. We also have a few great Usborne books on science and animals and zoology of all different kinds that we love to dig into, but it is way too big a stack to have here on the table to show you tonight. For health this past year, we covered human anatomy and physiology. So this year we're really digging more into nutrition, health, and actually cooking. We may go back and forth each year depending on how we want to approach things, but this year we really don't have a set curriculum. My kids are going to be learning more kitchen skills. I'm going to be challenging them to choose recipes, shop for them, make them themselves, as well as researching those ingredients, looking at their plate to check in with their nutrient consumption and really becoming aware of what they're putting in their body and fueling their bodies instead of just eating what's yummy. This past Christmas, my in-laws blessed us with a really nice keyboard. So I did some research and found a music program that I really liked, and we will be continuing with that for music this year. So the end of this past year, we did book 1 of the John Thompson's Easiest Piano course. So this year, we will be working on book 2 and book 3. There are 5 books in the series, and as someone who does not play piano myself, I have actually found it incredibly easy to teach them. I do play several instruments. Piano is just not one of them. So I know how to read music and I know how to teach them those things. But these have been really amazing at honestly teaching all of us, including me, how to play the piano. I love them, and I would highly recommend them. And that brings us to art. We have a lot of fun with art. This past year, we did what we call Fun Fridays, where we just focus on doing things that kind of go along with what we're learning in history and science. or just seasonal or whatever it is that they want to do for art. We would do painting or drawing. We love the Art for Kids Hub on YouTube, drawing tutorials. We have several books from Usborne on how to draw cartoons, so my kids have started making their own comic books. And that's really where we were with art this past year. I decided that this year I'd like to do something more, something a little more structured. They do love the painting, whether it be the magic painting books from Usborne or painting rocks, using acrylics to paint different mediums. I decided I wanted to do watercolors. I got one of each of these. It's a 12 paint palette from Lyra. We got these from A Child's Dream. I don't have any kind of affiliation with A Child's Dream. It's just a fantastic source for so many of these things that I actually heard of originally from Hannah at Pepper and Pine, which if you have not seen Hannah, you must check her out. So we got one of these for each of my kids. We got some really good quality paintbrushes, and we also got Lyra's watercolor pencils, because I wanted my kids to be able to work with different things. I know I have a range of ages, and I know they're all going to have different strengths. So I just wanted to give them options and encourage them to try different and maybe harder things. To learn about watercolors, we got this book, Everyday Watercolor by Jenna Rainey. This book is something I found on Amazon of all places. There are 31 lessons breaking down how to use watercolors, starting at the very basic. While the intention of this book is to do one lesson every day and build on your skills that way, my plan is to do one lesson every week and give the kids opportunities to try it throughout the week, or just focus on our fun Fridays on that week's watercolor skill. I also got 2 big thick packs of real watercolor paper pads. I will link all of these things that I got in the info box below in case you care to check them out. And the last thing we're going to do for art is hand stitching. This is something that actually my boys have really liked, because, and I did not expect that. Well, they're not really into sewing and things. They do like to put things together and create things, whether it's that they're outside and they're trying to stitch things together to make a teepee or something like that. These skills really come in handy. So I got this awesome little book, and we already have a great stash of felts and things like that to use from last year's supplies. But I also got this hand embroidery kit from A Child's Dream to help us learn those stitching skills. It came with embroidery floss, which I already have, but we can always use more. A whole bunch of embroidery needles, a hoop, which we also have, but it's good to have more when you have this many kids. Tiny scissors, a big piece of muslin, which we can cut into many pieces for projects, and this booklet teaching how to do each individual stitch from the most basic. And my point in all of this is to teach my kids a variety of these skills on the hoops and muslin with embroidery floss, and give them the opportunity to then actually build things, whatever they want. Get inspiration from this book, use any colors they want, embellish them any way they want, but have the skills to be able to do those things. Whether it's to create crafty things or it's to mend your own clothes down the road. These skills will come in handy, not just for creating beautiful art things. And that is it for our group subjects. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them, no matter when this video was put up and when you have that question. I am always happy to answer them. I will link all of these things in the info box below so you can see where I got them, price them out. I will have those available for you. Thank you so much for sticking around today, friends. If you like this video, as always, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more homeschool videos like this. Bye-bye, friends.